With Walmart's new fresh and frozen subscriptions, you can save time on your weekly grocery shopping.
Dad, you're supposed to be grocery shopping.
And miss the chance to embarrass you in front of your friends? I subscribe to snacks and wet napkins. You know how messy you are.
Dad!
Walmart. Subscribe to your weekly list.
This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
Earning your degree online doesn't mean you have to go about it alone. At Capella University, we're here to support you when you're ready. From enrollment counselors who get to know you and your goals, to academic coaches who can help you form a plan to stay on track. We care about your success and are dedicated to helping you pursue your goals. Going back to school is a big step, but having support at every step of your academic journey can make a big difference. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
We get it. Distractions happen. That's why we designed the fully electric, full-sized Volvo EX90 with the latest technology to keep you and those around you safe. Its two-sensor driver understanding system is designed to prevent distractions and help you stay focused. Reserve your Volvo EX90 today. Learn more at volvocars.com/US.
And welcome back to the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. It is your host, Robbie, back from vacation, joined by Snail across the country in Seattle. And after a week away, we are back. We have a lot of news to cover, a few mailbag questions to handle on this Monday, September 23rd. But before we get into that, I will toss it over to Snail to see how he's doing out in the Emerald City.
It's fall, officially fall,
yeah,
according to the calendars. Today's a nice rainy, misty day. I got sweatpants on. I am not working. I've been grinding away. I actually re-uploaded Chell 19, one of my favorite NHL years, games, and so yeah, that's kind of how my day's been going. But Robbie, you're back from Carolina. You got a little color on your face. It looks like the sun got you. How was Carolina?
It was definitely not fall down in North Carolina. It was definitely still the remnants of summer, pretty hot, more humidity than anything. But God. Definitely, yeah, it was definitely a little steamy down there. Last Monday, there was they called it a tropical rainstorm rolled through where we are. So Monday was a wash, but we got lucky. Areas south of where we were got upwards of 18 inches of rain. We did not get that much. And today here in Pennsylvania, it is officially fall, but it is kind of similar to what you got out there. A little more steady of a rain, but a rainy, misty, kind of overcast, miserable type day here on the first Monday of the fall season. So
nice.
Fingers crossed that it clears up here as the week goes along. But
our 10-day forecast, I see 48 in the horizon. So fall is here, and it's gonna get. Old Man Winter has probably woken up, and he's starting to descend across the country.
Definitely downward. Seems like that. I don't know about you, Snell, but there's some color changes.
Oh yeah,
in my neck of the woods, just subtle, but enough to definitely catch your eye. Definitely more than what I'd say is the more than what it was a week ago. So definitely getting into fall here. But
yeah, dude.
Go ahead.
I gotta say, dude, my Seahawks are 3-0.
The Seahawks are 3-0. So are the Steelers. Steelers are also
really.
Yeah, the Steelers are 3-0. Steelers keep rolling along. Seahawks. I did see that game yesterday. A very impressive performance. It seemed like Geno hooking up with DK Metcalf.
Oh yeah,
for a big touchdown. So yeah, I'd say that out in Seattle right now, the vibes have to be good with the Seahawks sitting at 3-0 and
a
right
Niners
now,
loss.
The Niners lost.
They're 1-2.
Yeah, a very good start to the season for the Seahawks. and a good way to kind of stack them wins early so you don't have to worry about them quite as much come December and January. So good start for the Seahawks. Good start for the Steelers.
How are you feeling about the Steelers 3-0? Like out here in Seattle, I hear everyone saying, all 3-0 is 3-0. I'll take that over anything. But their wins haven't been super convincing wins. Like they barely snuck that one out past the against the Pats. How are the Steelers? Are you feeling confident in them, or is it shaky? But you're the same as kind of I feel 3-0 is 3-0.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of people are the same line of thought of 3-0 is 3-0, especially with the Steelers schedule is kind of back heavy, getting into from Thanksgiving till the end of the season. So you want to start out good. You have a solid lead in the division now. You have 3 wins that you don't have to worry about come Christmas. And yeah, they have it. Yesterday was probably their most complete win. It wasn't perfect, but in the second half, the defense just completely shut down the Chargers. So overall, you're kind of getting the feeling that things are kind of falling into place, but nobody in Pittsburgh is ever going to complain about being 3-0. So yeah, vibes are high and rising. So yeah, 3-0 is 3-0. You kind of just you kind of roll with it. Yeah, I think they can always play better, but it's still early. But hey, we'll take the start.
A dub is a dub is a dub.
A dub is a dub is a dub is a dub. It's hard to win games in the NFL, and both the Steelers and Seahawks already won their first 3. So a good start to the season there. But all right, now that we will transition off of some quick football talk into what we are here for, and that is Penguins hockey. We're going to kind of do a half and half episode here. We're going to catch up on some news because with me on vacation last week, and then we're going to answer some quick mailbag questions. But I will say we do need a few more mailbag questions to fill out a part 2 later in the week. So if you're listening to this now and haven't contributed, or if you are and have more, hop over to Twitter and shoot us some questions under the tweet. I'll re-up that tomorrow as well. So we have a few more for later in this week, should we need more. But going to start it off pretty blank, straightforward, Snell. Last week, I knew it was going to happen when I left, and It did. Classic Sid, waiting for the most inopportune time. We got our extension, 2 years. I said I thought it was going to be upwards of $10 million. I thought he was going to take some more money on a shorter term.
Me too.
I should have known. I think we both should have known better that he was not going to go away from the 8.7, and he sticks with the 8.7. So you get Sidney Crosby 2 years extended at $8.7 million, the same exact total he's had for the past decade plus, 13, 14 years, whatever it's been. He remains a Pittsburgh Penguin for the next 3 seasons. And it seems like reading about the deal, a lot of it was the hang-up, I guess you could say, was the length. Crosby does not want to put the Penguins in a situation where if he signs a 4 or 5 year extension, that he drops off after 3 years and saddles the Penguins with extra baggage against the salary cap if he would retire. So Sidney Crosby, by all means, is a Penguin for life. And I think that starting there, everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody's certainly happy. And Canadian media, I thought that might silence them a bit, but it only got them more charged up. We can get to that in a minute, but yeah, it's cool. I think people forget too. It's not like Sid was going it like Sid still has this year, so 3 more seasons of Sid at least, and 8.7 still an underpayment considering the production he put out last season. I think that's still 8.7 if he has another identical year or even drops off just a hair. I'd still say that it's an underpayment for him. It's so crazy to hear Sid, and I listened to a couple things about some quotes from him and listened to him on 32 Thoughts prior to signing, and it's just crazy that he's such a he is not your average superstar. You know what I mean? Like the way he's handled this whole thing, and like how he's like, yeah, I could take more years, but I don't want to put the Penguins. A typical agent would be like, just get as much money, secure money, like secure your money, secure your financial, secure your finances for the future. You know, your career's coming to an end. But Sid's like, yeah, you know, I don't want the Penguins to get jammed up because of me. What if I fall off a cliff? It's just, he handles it with such grace that, you know, you're not used to in sports, especially with like NFL teams, NBA teams. There's some players, like some of those guys on the Maple Leafs who they don't care how bad they jam up their team. They're just trying to get their dough. So really refreshing as just a sports fan to see somebody like Sidney Crosby. And that's why you root for him, right? That's one of the reasons, aside from being so great. He's an easy guy to root for. So I couldn't be happier. A couple more years of Sid in the Berg, and you hope, right, that that's where it ends. You know, it'll be interesting to see where the Penguins are at when those couple years are up. I feel like the Penguins should be trending kind of towards being better by then. Dubas has been doing a great job of accumulating those draft picks. So it'd be cool to see him go out on a high note. Do you see a situation, and this is what everyone's been asking, but yeah, he signed those couple more years in the Berg. Do you see a situation where he gets shipped off at a trade deadline?
Well, he has the I believe there's a full NMC, no movement clause in this contract, and I'll be honest, I don't. I unless it would get like pure desperation, I just don't think. I think he knows the legacy now resides in being a Penguin for life. I really think that, again, if he had one cup, that's a completely different story. But he has 3. They went back to back. He has all every individual accolade you could possibly want. And what's weird to me, and maybe it's just something that bothers me, is you hear all this stuff about Crosby being traded to who, God knows, Colorado, Toronto, Montreal, whatever. Why don't we hear the same thing about Alex Ovechkin?
That's a good point.
You have a team that the Capitals are basically in the same situation as the Penguins are.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really at the point where they're even stocking draft picks like the Penguins are. They were clearly one of, and this isn't even being using hyperbole, one of the worst playoff teams ever to qualify, at least under the salary cap NHL starting in 2005. Were completely routed. They have lost pieces. They're not as good. You're aging. Why aren't we saying the same stuff about Alex Ovechkin? Probably because Alex Ovechkin's Russian, Crosby being Canadian. It definitely generates more media hype because he is the good Canadian boy. But why is Alex Ovechkin, who only has 1 Stanley Cup, not talked about in a way like Ovechkin or Crosby is?
That's a really good point. Because you never hear it. I never hear that. Why doesn't Toronto ever talk about, well, maybe Ovi will want to come bring his cert? Is it because he's a one-trick pony? Because Sid can play 200 feet and win face-offs, and hell, Sid could PK if he wanted to, but Ovi, he just stands in one dot, and you just hope that he rockets it top shelf. He doesn't create a ton off the rush. But yeah, that's a great point. You know what, that'd be a real big relief for me if I heard those clowns on TSN for once talk about Ovi. Maybe, you know, it's a shame to see Ovi just wither away in his respective market. They always call it their respective market instead of just being like in DC. I don't know. That's a great point, and there should be more of that, you know.
I just think it's a fair question to ask. Why aren't
Canada wants Sid? They feel entitled to Sid because he got them because he's the golden boy. But I love how I heard TSN talking about this. You know, they spent a 3-hour block having analysts come on, and they had Josh Yohe on TSN 1050, and he was like, you know, I don't see Sid getting traded. His favorite players are Yzerman and Lemieux, who played their entire careers
with one team.
Yeah. And then they'd have the next hour, they'd have like Pierre LeBrun on, or they'd have Chris Johnston. And they're like, so do we see a situation where Sid gets traded? And it's like, dude, how many times do you have to ask? It's like, clearly it's not happening. So it's just goofy. It's funny. They've never done that about Ovi.
Really, they haven't at all. And it's really very annoying. But I mean, yeah, Crosby's the golden boy. He is the good Canadian boy, so he's definitely going to draw that that media attention. But I'm glad that most of them had to swallow their pride a little bit when that extension was announced, and they were kind of. I did notice. I looked through some of the comments of the post announcing it, and like even non-Penguins fans were kind of ragging on the Canadian media for making this whole big thing out of out of the Crosby extension or the potentially trading Crosby or signing somewhere else. And yeah, I think a lot of it just comes like a lot of these people just can't maybe wrap their heads around being that unselfish. Like he's been that unselfish his entire career. I think people want him to maybe be selfish once, and he's not willing to do it. He wants to be a Penguin for life. His two best friends already committed to the Penguins for life. So I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what it boils down to. But it took a long time, but right before camp starts, the announcement comes out, and it's crazy. It wasn't broken beforehand. It wasn't like rumblings of a Crosby deal. It was a completely Penguins tweeted the graphic and the announcement, and everybody celebrated, pop your figurative champagne, and it was just a very, with everything going on, like the Penguins last 2 years, a very welcome sign to walk into training camp with that taken care of, and Crosby now in Pittsburgh for the next 3 years.
Yep, and of course it would happen when you take a week off. I feel like that's just like the.
I knew it was going to happen.
It happens. That stuff always seems to happen. So I also was going to just chime in. I think the reason why maybe we also thought 8-7 was out of the picture was because August 7th had passed.
Yeah,
kind of felt more. I thought like if 8-7 August 7th passed. It's so goofy. We still talk about this with the whole superstition thing with him, but I thought maybe if it passed that date, we're looking at $9 million a year for like 3. I thought maybe 9 by 3 was what I was thinking.
That could have easily been
10. You said 10. I don't think I wouldn't have been shocked at that. I would have for a guy like Sid and what he's given. It's like, I mean, he's owed. I feel like they owe him that.
Yeah.
Even if his production dropped off. So 8-7 classic. Still underpaid, happy to have him back, and everyone can kind of move on with the season. And it kind of gets back to the big thing. The Penguins, this kind of took over the
whole thing. Yeah.
It took over the whole thing for the Penguins. But we got to get back to the fact that the Penguins have missed the playoffs for 2 years in a row, and Dubas has been. I think that Dubas has enough leash for everyone to just be a little patient with him. He's doing what he can. Gensel being traded was a shocker, but it's about getting younger. It's about accumulating some draft picks and restocking those cupboards, those barren cupboards down in Wilkes-Barre. And we got to see a little bit of that. They had their first. Was it technically a preseason game? The one they played against Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't the full. Buffalo was more full strength than the Penguins were, but it was
I saw that. They had their whole roster.
Basically, and the Penguins did not. Let's put it that way.
Let's just say they had Jesse Puljujarvi in the lineup.
Yeah, thank goodness they had Jesse Puljujarvi. Before we get into the game, we will talk about training camp here.
Training camp.
Penguins open on the 18th, Wednesday. From what I read while away, mostly run-of-the-mill stuff. Nothing really stood out to me too much. They did sign a goaltender to a PTO, really just to make up for the absence of Taylor Gauthier, who is banged up right now. I don't expect anything to really come of that, at least not in terms of.
Is it that Philip Larson guy?
No. Larson was an actual signing. He'll battle for a position somewhere in the minors. Anyway, I'll figure it out here in a second. But here it is right here. It is Luke Richardson. He's basically a career minor leaguer that they brought in. They like to have 6 goaltenders. I did say that people have been very impressed with Murashov, who has been what they said spectacular. I saw a couple of videos, a couple of nice saves that he made. Joel Blomqvist, I mean, he's probably going to be your 3 unless Philip Larson's your 3, but I think they're going to try to give Blomqvist and Murashov as much run as they can in the minors. So we'll see that. But a lot of position battles. I mean, we expected that. From what I've been reading, you have guys in that bottom six that are fighting for spots. Terry Pusin is in that in that bunch. Drew O'Connor, we expect Drew O'Connor to be on the opening night roster, obviously, but where is he going to fit in the lineup? Right now, we have Anthony Beauvillier taking shifts with Crosby and Rust on the top line. The only line, again, there's questions about this in the mailbag this week, talking about the line, so I don't want to get too in depth, but you have that second line seems to be pretty set with Malkin, Bunting, and Raquel. But after that, it's kind of a crapshoot. And the big logjam on the blue line as well. And right now, Erik Karlsson is day-to-day. So a lot of guys battling for really not a lot of spots.
Yeah, it's kind of, dude, I mean, in Penguins history, that's always kind of been the case. You know what I mean? When you've had for years, it's just been Sid, Malkin, and then at times it was I don't know, name a 3C, Bonino, or Cullen was sometimes a good 3C. It's like there's only so many spots that are really realistically up for grabs, and this year it's sort of the same thing. I think there's a lot more space open in that bottom six, like we've talked about a lot. Jesse Puljujarvi, I don't want to get too much into him right now because I think we have a question specifically about him, but had a hat trick against essentially the starting lineup for the Buffalo Sabres. And I liked the goals. He went net front once. He had a nice tip in front of the net. And that's where I've been saying it. That's where I want to see him. I need Sullivan, much like Patrick Hornquist. Patrick Hornquist was having a hard time finding his role in the league, and somebody told him, a coach had whispered in his ear, you got to get to the front of the net, you got to play like this guy. And I forget who the player was he told him to play like, but he turned into a pest in front of the net, and I feel like someone needs to have a similar conversation with Jesse. He went to the net on one, and then he kind of drives the net on another using his frame power forward type goal. And then he had an absolute snipe bar in. He's always seemed to me too, like even when he was in Edmonton, he could be like a perfect third line right winger, There's some guys I'm super curious about that I don't know if we're going to get a solid answer on in preseason. As the year goes on, I'm sure they'll get better looks. There will be call-ups, there'll probably be injuries, but I'm curious about Cody Glass. Cody Glass was I forget where he went in the first round, but it was a top 10 pick to the Vegas Golden Knights. He's got size. He has that. He lit up juniors, and I think he's had problems with injuries, and he looked really good in Nashville. So, it's interesting. You said Beauvillier is getting some looks with Crosby. Beauvillier is a top 6 player. I think if he had like a down year last year, if he had injury or something, Islanders. He was with the Islanders. I don't know. They were kind of shipping people in and out for a bit. He was a part of the Predators, I believe, last year. That seems like a great guy. It's like, if it's not Beauvillier, I'd like to see Drew O'Connor placed up there. We know that works. And the big one is Rutger McGroarty. Like, if Rutger McGroarty can outplay a guy like Beauvillier or a guy like Drew O'Connor in camp, I want to see him on that first line. Like, why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And he's getting a run there. So the preseason game, it was a loss, but again, you can't put any weight on a preseason game. Joe Blomqvist did get lit up, but he wasn't exactly playing with a squad of NHLers in front of him as compared to Buffalo basically running out their entire NHL team. Jesse Puljujarvi, hat trick, good there. He needed that desperately because he is a bubble player. And the hat trick is definitely going to turn heads. I believe there might have been a power play goal in there as well. But, yeah, I mean, basically training camp is all getting guys tuned up, your starters ready for the season, and then watching the camp battles. And there's been quite a few. Cody Glass, from what I've read, is climbing, is making an impression, and his stock is rising. Blake Lizotte has been having a good training camp. So overall, a good start to training camp. We just have to hope that everybody stays healthy and these camp battles continue, because the roster is going to continue to get trimmed, and the more they trim, the more those bubble guys have to keep fighting unless they want to be playing starting the season down in Wilkes-Barre.
I got two names for you.
Yep.
Vasily Ponomarev and Vili Koivunen. Do you know what those two players have in common?
They were both in the Jake Gensel trade.
That's correct.
Is that it, or is that something else?
That's it. Those are two guys that I'm going to be ISO camming in on, and it's, they weren't Carolina's top prospects, but they were high on these guys. I don't know how high, but they were in their cupboard per se. Let's just say that. These are guys that I'm going to be curious about to see how they develop through training camp. And I don't imagine either of them makes the opening night lineup. I just don't think that's where they're slotted from what I've read and heard. But Robbie, there's got to be some intrigue from Penguins fans and coaching staff to see how these guys marinate, so to say, because of the magnitude of that trade and what it meant and the statement behind that with Dubas moving on from Gensel. And one of them we know is penciled in for the opening night lineup. Like you said, that second line is probably solidified. I don't see any real change happening there unless there's an injury or something drastic comes out of camp. But where are you at with are you going to be keeping an eye on these guys, Ponomarev and Koivunen?
Yeah, I think you have to, because they're guys. It sounds like Ponomarev was playing a little higher in the lines, at least at practice today. Koivunen was a little bit lower, so I don't know if that says anything or not. He was skating alongside Puljujarvi and McGroarty earlier this morning. So yeah, I think that both of those guys. I think Ponomarev might have the edge if you're picking between those two guys.
Yeah.
But again, I think Ponomarev is one of those, like him and Koivunen are, you either make the team and are going to play, or you're going down the AHL. They're not going to bring him on as an extra forward, either of those guys, and just have them sit in the press box, maybe play once a week or something like that, because that doesn't do anything for their development. So for them, it's pretty much either you're starting, you're in the roster every night, or you're down in Wilkes-Barre. So it'll be interesting to watch those guys here as the preseason and training camp moves along, because it does move quickly. We are 2 weeks out, or just about 2 weeks out of the season starting for real. But there is a lot of hockey to be played between now and then. Again, starting on when you listen to this, it'll be later this evening against the Buffalo Sabres, this time in Pittsburgh. But after that, they still have, as of right now, they have 1, 2, 3.
Traveling to see your fave sports team is cool, but traveling with Amex Platinum for the big game is even better.
Right this way.
With access to dedicated card member entrances at select events, you can skip the line.
And one.
And with access to the Centurion Lounge,
He shoots a 3.
you can catch the next game on the way home. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Card member entrance access not limited to Amex Platinum Card.
With Walmart's new fresh and frozen subscriptions, you can save time on your weekly grocery shopping.
Dad, you're supposed to be grocery shopping.
And miss the chance to embarrass you in front of your friends? I subscribe to Snacks and Wet Napkins. You know how messy you are.
Dad.
Walmart. Subscribe to your weekly list.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie Wolves is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie Wolves,
you can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it, so do it.
Definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Hey, Realtors. On your way to a listing presentation, Zillow Showcase helps you stand out with sellers by putting their listing and your brand in the spotlight on Zillow. With Zillow Showcase, your listings can get prioritized placement, astonishing performance, and exclusivity. Showcase is designed to not exceed 10% of listings in a market. Don't wait to give your business the premium marketing and branding treatment it deserves. Visit showingtimeplus.com/Spotify to get started with Zillow Showcase.
4, 5, 6 preseason games left. So a lot of hockey yet to be played to determine this roster, though. I do expect the final maybe 2 games to be mostly your final squad, getting those guys as comfortable with one another as possible. So still a chance to make an impression, but time is running out So these guys need a good showing here, rounding out the month before we hit October.
Indeed. It's exciting stuff, honestly.
It'll
be interesting. Exciting. Have they made the first round of cuts yet?
They did trim a little bit, but I don't think it was anything.
I mean, some of these names on here, I expect like Tanner Howe. He's got to go. He's probably going back to the. He's going to go to the AHL.
I believe so.
I don't know. Can he go back to the Dub?
I don't know. Actually, now that you say that,
I forget if these guys can go back to the WHL or not. I think they can. I'm assuming he'd probably go back to, unless he's too old. Is Tristan Brose? Is he going to be in the AHL? Or
He'll be in the No, he's in the AHL.
He's not going back to college, right?
He signed a contract. He can't go back to college.
Okay. There's some names. These defensemen. There's a couple names here I've heard quite a few times. I remember Mac Hollowell with the Leafs in their organization. Mm-hmm. Nathan Klerman, Ryan Shea. Ryan Shea's somebody I fully expect to probably make the opening night roster. I thought him and Jack St. Ivany were an awesome pairing throughout that last stretch when they were rolling. John Ludwig, I love the guy, but due to injury, I feel like he just really lost some of his. I think he kind of lost his spot a little bit with that third pairing lefty. I love what he brings, but Ryan Graves, get him all the reps that he can get because he needs to be almost a completely different player. Harrison Brunnicke, that's someone you said the Penguins were pretty high on, right?
Yeah, Brunnicke was one of the draft picks.
Okay. Well, Philip, I mean, besides the guys I mentioned that I said were probably, that got some NHL time last year, I bet soon a lot of these guys are going back to their respective juniors or wherever. So, it'll be interesting to see how camp shakes out, but just pray for no injuries, right?
Yeah, that's really, especially to those, to anyone really, because especially to your guys who are maybe on the cusp of making the roster, you don't want an injury now. You obviously don't want an injury to any of the big guns, especially with the scoring depth issues that have plagued the Penguins. So you want as many healthy bodies to start the season, and hopefully Erik Karlsson gets back on the ice here soon. I know there's a couple longer term injuries to guys that would have either been sent back to juniors or would be in the AHL to start. So best of luck to them. But hopefully we get Karlsson back, get him some power play practice before the season begins in full in a couple weeks.
Agreed.
All right. That is most of the news talk. We're going to shift into some mailbag questions here. So we have 4 this time around, from 3 from Brian and 1 from Ed. So I'll take the first one. So I'll pass it over to Snail real quick to rattle that one off, and we'll talk more about these lines.
Yep. So speaking of lines, Brian asks here, how do you think the lines are going to work? Do you think that they're going to rotate guys in and out since they have a slew of borderline top 9 guys? Or once they decide the lines, that's it? I think they should consider bringing guys in and see if something sticks. Any lines in camp that stand out to you that could end up staying?
Yeah, so I'm going to break this question down into a couple different sections here, since it's kind of a multi-parter. I'm going to start with, I think they should bring in guys to see if something sticks. And I'm going to disagree with that, Brian. They have so many bodies on this roster right now, and I want to see them use these young guys as much as possible. And bringing in somebody on a PTO or a 1-year deal at Vetman, it just pushes these younger guys kind of out of the picture a little bit more. And if they're going to give a bottom 6 roster spot to one of these guys, I'd rather it be a guy like Koivunen or Ponmonarerov, or just take a flyer with Bros, Puustinen. We've seen what he can do. So I'm not really on the bring somebody in right now, because what you're getting out of a guy on a PTO at this point is not much different than what you're going to probably get out of one of these young guys. And it's probably going to be cheaper for one of the younger guys, and they get to develop their game. So I'm more along the lines of just sticking with what you got without changing too much from the outside.
Dude, Robbie, quickly, I want to piggyback what you said. Like, dude, it's finally time where the Penguins, they've missed the playoffs twice.
Yeah.
Like they need to start developing some of these young guys. You know what I mean? It can't be like give a guy a cup of coffee on a top line or in a middle six position and then go to some vet hoping that their experience helps maybe get you into the playoffs. It's time that the Penguins give a little bit of a longer look and a leash to some of these young guys that have potential and talent, like a guy like Sprong or something. It would have been nice to have given him a lot longer look because he's bounced around a little bit, but he's like a continuous 20 goal scorer. You don't want another one of these guys to be like another Sprong, right? You need to let these guys have a little bit of a run at one of these positions, one of these younger guys.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. They've kind of fallen into that trap in the past, but I'd love to see one of these younger guys get a little bit of a run here. Any lines in camp that you could that stand out that could end up staying? I think the Raquel Malkin Bunting line is about as set in stone as you can get at this point. I think we saw it work last year, especially with Malkin and Bunting. Raquel, hopefully healthy, he can bounce back. So I really like that line. Crosby Rust, we know is going to happen. It's all about that left winger, and from the looks of it right now, it's Anthony Beauvillier. Do not hate giving Beauvillier a run up there. He's had success before playing in a top six role. And if not, move Drew O'Connor up there. I think the bottom six is, outside of maybe a name or two, is still very in flux, at least from a night in, night out perspective. Kevin Hayes, I do not see going anywhere. The same with Lars Eller. And I think Cody Glass is going to lock down a role at some point as well. Nola Chari, Blake Lizotte, who a lot of people believed was the signing of the offseason for the Penguins. I think he's definitely going to be there. And then your O'Connor, Drew O'Connor is going to be on this opening night roster. It just depends on where he's at exactly. There's no way you can look at the way his season ended last year and not have him on this roster. So I think it's going to come down to then, like, where do guys like Puljujarvi fit? Where a guy like Puustinen, McGroarty, is he ready for the step? Or are they going to start him down in the A? A name that we kind of have forgotten about is Emil Benstrom is in that mix as well. So you're probably going to have 13, 14 forwards, at least 12. So your top 12 or your 12 starters and then 2 extras maybe. The 2 extras will be a complete battle. But I think it'll be veteran guys like a Puljujarvi or Puustinen rather than young guys like Ponomarev or Koivunen or McGroarty. They want those guys to be on the ice as much as possible to get as much experience, as much game time as they can. All right. So moving on here. This is sticking with Jesse Puljujarvi here. It's from Brian. He says, Puljujarvi seems to be having a good camp so far. Do you think he has a chance of getting into the opening night roster?
I absolutely do think he has a good shot at that. I think that Puljujarvi, high pick, we all know that, number 4 overall in 2016. I think they maybe rushed his development a little bit in Edmonton because of the pressure, because of that's Edmonton for you. They have a lot of pressure with McDavid and then Draisaitl needing to keep those guys happy. I think they rushed his development a little bit. I think at times Jesse Puljujarvi maybe was a little bit ahead of his skis as far as trying to keep up with 2 just insane, brilliant hockey minds like McDavid and Draisaitl. I think his size, that his frame, his shot, it's so he could be such a great NHL player, and he didn't go fourth overall. He had a great World Juniors. Like, it's not a fluke. This isn't a Nail Yakupov. Like, this is like and Nail was first overall. He's 4th. I get it, but this isn't just some off the board chance. He had a great World Juniors playing with, I believe, Laine and Aho. With that said, he had a pretty devastating surgery. He had to get, I think he had like hip resurfacing surgery type deal. Not easy to come back from. And to see him, get a hat trick, good for him. I hope that he's getting the attention of, he's getting some positive press for once. I know he had kind of a rough go at times up in Edmonton. and he had the cup of coffee with Carolina. But I think that if Sullivan and this coaching staff can kind of get in his ear, and I don't know what message needs to be said, I think he'd be great as a net front guy. I don't know if he necessarily has the wheels to be a complete burner or anything like that, but third line right wing, he just seems like a prototypical third line power forward, could play up in the lineup. It'd be great to see him on PP2 net front or something, PP1 net front. He's just got to keep it up. You know, he got the hat trick in the first preseason game. Can't take your foot off the gas. I'm a Puljujarvi fan. Like, I think that this guy looks like he just needs to put it all together. At times you see it, you see the skill, you see the flashes of kind of dominance out there at times. You know, he can really move bodies around. He can be a puck hound. A lot of traits I like in a hockey player, but he just needs to string it all together for a consistent stretch of time. I don't know where you're at with Puljujarvi, Robbie, but for me, I think if he can keep this up, I don't see why he couldn't be a bottom six right winger, or, you know, at the odd chance, maybe getting a look on like PP1 or PP2 or something.
Yeah, he's going to get every opportunity, I think, to prove himself. I'd like to see him do it against with the big guys. He played with some of the younger guys in this first preseason game, but he did that work against the Buffalo Sabres top guys. So I think he's going to have every opportunity to crack this roster, even if it is an extra forward to start. I definitely think that performance on Saturday night has a foot in the door for him. So if he can keep that up, I think he's going to make it very, very difficult for them not to put him on that roster.
And just for his sake, I'd love to see him get a consistent look. You know what I mean? Last year, because of injury, he was in and out. But we're team Puljujarvi here on this podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Ed Helsinki asks you, which camp sleepers are making the Penguins opening night roster? Who are you liking?
So I'm going to go with Ponomarenov. I think that he is on that bubble right now, so I'm not going to say that he's going to make it. I think it's probably a coin flip, and he probably has some guys that he has to jump over. But I'm going to say Ponomarev.
That one's giving you a hell of a
For some reason, that name is giving me
Ponomarev.
Ponomarev, okay. He's really the most, I'd say, exciting name out of that bunch, that kind of grouping there, outside of McGroarty, who I just think is going to start in the AHL. Would love to see him get a run to start the season, but just don't see it happening right now. Other than that, like Sam Poulin, I mean, maybe they're just like, listen, you have to do it now or never, and they just throw him in there. But I'm not feeling hopeful about that at all.
Can we talk about Poulin quickly?
Yeah, hold on.
Dude.
Let me finish this line of thinking real quick. Another name, just because he was there last year and was pretty solid in and out, Emil Benstrom, just because I think that he is liked in Pittsburgh. I believe Sullivan likes him, and I do think he has a role. He's not very big, but I do think he has a role that he can play in Pittsburgh well. So I think Benstrom is in that conversation as well. But I will now pause. We will talk about Sam Poulin here a little bit, because I think that we are rapidly approaching, if we haven't reached it already, unfortunately, bust territory for Sam Poulin.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, you know, he's been, I think, in and out of the player assistance program, and he had some injury issues. But I mean, dude, it's been a while. Like, was he drafted in 2019?
Might have been 2018.
2018, maybe that was it. Him and Nathan Legare.
Yeah, Nathan Hold on. He was drafted in 2019. Sorry, he was 2019. Okay. 21st overall. Yep.
21st overall. I've heard he's changed up his game a little bit. He's kind of become more of like they're looking at him more as like a PK, kind of a gritty centerman. His last like decent year, 2023, 2024, he put up 16 goals in 15 assists for 31 points in 41 games. Prior to that, His last good season, full season, was 2021-2022 with 16 goals, 21 assists for 72 points. I mean, yeah, like you said, Robbie, I think this year he's got it's shit or get off the pot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's show me something, or unfortunately, yeah, he'll probably be labeled as a first round bust for the Penguins when they could really use some of these prospects.
Definitely a guy you would have liked to them have hit on. Absolutely. Unfortunately, time is running out if it does not run out already. But yeah, this is kind of it. Let's put it that way. I think, at least for Sam Poulin.
Yeah, so what he's had a look. He's played 6 NHL games accumulatively over 2 different seasons. He has 1 assist to his name and 2 penalty minutes. He's -3, -1.
Yeah.
So it might just not be there. You know, it might be.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it might be close to cutting bait with this guy, and it'd be unfortunate because he's been a name every year this time of year. We're like, will we see Sam make the opening night roster? And unfortunately, it's just not gone his way. Do you see him? Have you heard anything out of camp regarding Sam? Is he practicing?
He is practicing. Yes, he was. But he was today. He was on one of the lower lines. Like he was not with that top 12 or like just kind of that top. No, he was low on the totem pole today. So he is practicing. He's not hurt, but man, it just does not seem to be happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, bummer. But sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to derail the question from Ed.
No.
As far as sleeper goes, you could see maybe Ponomarev getting a sniff. Is that what you'd said?
Yeah, that and Benstrom.
Benstrom. I like that Benstrom guy. I kind of like the little bit of juice he added to the lineup when they picked him up. Super random trade too. You have to
very.
Admit.
All right, and and that was one where they had to sit him the last game of the year, so he didn't go off and score 4 goals or something and cost them a draft pick or something like that. So because of the conditions on that, they traded him for a 7th round draft pick or something like that.
I got to ask you about Rutger here. So you said that you think he'll get a little bit of a look maybe in the NHL, but you'd like to see him go to the AHL?
I'd love to see him get a shot on that opening night roster just to see if he can jolt this team from the start and if he can make an impression. But I get a feeling he's going to be starting in the AHL. That's just the feeling that I'm getting right now. But we will see how it plays out. I would just love to see him kind of take over these next 2 weeks and be make it to a point where they can't put him in the minors to start. They have to give him a run with Crosby or Malkin or something like that to see if he can jolt them out of the gate. But my overall feeling is he's going to be in the minors to start the season.
All righty. Well, yeah, I think that I think for him to crack, do you see him in a bottom 6 role to start the season at all? Or do you see, if he can't outperform Drew O'Connor in training camp or in preseason games, do you see them putting him in the bottom 6? Or do you think that it's just straight to the AHL and wait for him to work his way out of it?
I could see him being in a bottom 6 role, especially with the game he plays. That physical, hard-nosed game, going to the net, the Patrick Hornquist type game. I could see him in that bottom 6 role to start, but again, that's a crowded field too. So if he does enough to crack that part of the roster, I'm completely fine as that as well, just as long as he's getting a regular run, not this every other game or something like that. I think he's a guy that needs to be on the ice so he can learn the pro game and continue his development that way. So I'm cool with it as long as he's getting a run out every night.
Fair enough.
All right. One last question here from Brian, a little more of a lighthearted one. He said, are people more loyal to their sports teams or car brands?
Got to be sports teams.
I think so. I mean, you have people going to prison for your sports teams.
Yeah, you've got people doing really heinous things for sports teams, but car brands, don't see a ton of car brand tattoos. Don't see a lot of car brand t-shirts, merchandise. I mean, you do see it sometimes. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but just the other day, I think I messaged Robbie about it. I saw a Ian Cole t-shirt jersey on a kid out here in Seattle, and I was like, didn't see any Ford t-shirts that day. Didn't see
that's
any...
true. I mean, I think again, it might differ by market a little bit, but if you're in a diehard sports city, people are definitely more. Again, people can get really psycho about cars and their manufacturers, but sports, I definitely feels like kind of like they are the standard bearer when it comes to stupid fan behavior and psycho fan behavior.
Yeah, totally. I think that yeah, there are people that are diehard about their car brands, you know. That exists for sure. I've heard it. I've had buddies that have been that way. But it's got to be sports teams.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm rolling with. I think that is the kind of the standard bearer for psycho weirdo fans, because you can get people doing some really bizarre stuff in the name of in the name of their sports team. So I will give you that. I do agree with that. I mean, there's weird car people, but sports fans vastly outnumber them, I'd say.
Yeah, there's like car enthusiasts and like motorcycle like enthusiasts, you know, that just love their and they but that's I'm also not in that world, so maybe I don't know, but I see on social media, if I'm taking a tally of what I see out there, there's way more sports fans than car geeks that I see.
Some car geek is going to somehow listen to this and just go on a tirade in the Twitter thread next week, and we're going to be like, okay, we changed your mind. You are definitely the least normal individual I've ever met. So
which car brand has the biggest fan base, do you think?
Oh man, are we talking in America? I would say
let's do like American.
I'm gonna say Ford, just because it's like the original American car brand.
Yeah,
I definitely think Chevy is obviously right there as well, but I'm gonna say Ford is probably number one as of the biggest fan base, for sure.
Yeah, I think I would guess because of just Ford, how American they are.
Mm-hmm.
You would assume
it is like that. Ford is like an American.
It's the Budweiser brand of cars.
Yeah, I mean Chevy and GM, like GM's right there too. It's one of but Ford feels like, I mean, Henry Ford, the Model T, the assembly line, like all that feels like just intrinsically American.
Yeah, I think it would probably be that. I know that there's a lot of people that are been huge fans of the Japanese cars, like the Hondas and like the Toyotas and stuff like that.
Yeah, they are. I have a Subaru. I love my Subaru. And Subaru people can
Japanese?
be weird too. Yeah, I believe so.
I have no idea what Subaru is.
That or Korean, but
and then there's a lot of BMW fans too. Like you see, like people can really get into BMWs.
The BMW and Volkswagen you have to worry about because they have a bit of a, we will call it a dark history at one point.
Was it Nazi engineering?
Oh yeah, it was Nazi engineering. Yeah, there's actually, like, if you go to like, it's either BMW's website or Volkswagen's website, their history goes from like 1920 to 1950. It's like nothing happened in that 30-year span. They're just like, we're not going to discuss.
We're just not going to talk about that gap in our resume.
Yeah, we made some cars and that's about it. Just don't. If anybody asks, just go to Wikipedia or something like that.
Jeez, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hilarious. That there's nothing funny about that, but
but
it's funny because it's so far removed. Like these days, you know, kids who might be huge BMW enthusiasts who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their car have no idea.
Yeah, I actually, when I was in Europe, I actually got to go to the BMW museum, and as a non-car guy, it was actually super cool to see some of their old. Their model cars, their prototypes and stuff like that. Very, very interesting. And I'm not a car guy at all. Like, that is not my thing. I can like be like, hey, that's a cool car. That car looks cool. But like not a gearhead in any sort of fashion whatsoever.
Me either. I've never changed a tire.
What's car culture like out in Seattle?
Oh boy, this is right now. There are a lot of Teslas.
Not surprising for Seattle.
A lot of Teslas. I see a lot of Cybertrucks. I didn't even think there were a lot of Cybertrucks to begin with, but I see one. Almost every time I'm on the road, I see a Cybertruck, multiple Teslas.
I've seen my fair share of Teslas. Is the Cybertruck as big as it looks?
Yeah, it's huge.
It
looks so like non-functional too.
It looks like unrendered PS1 graphics.
It does. The other thing that people for a long time would say that was a popular car out here is Subarus because of their all-wheel drive capability.
Yeah,
And they're synonymous with like crunchy granola hippie type folks. Not as many Subarus as you'd probably think that I see, at least. A lot of people out here are driving 4Runners, a lot of Toyotas out here. 4Runners, Toyota Tacoma trucks, Camrys, that kind of stuff. RAV4s.
What do you like if besides like the Teslas, like what would you like of your standard like gas powered cars, what do you think is like the most popular?
Probably like the Honda CRV.
Okay. Yeah,
like a Honda CRV type car, like an SUV, an all-wheel drive compact like SUV.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. The CRVs, my mom and dad used to have CRVs. They are very solid cars. I can't. They're very good cars. That doesn't surprise me for Seattle. I think I'm more surprised by there's not a lot of Subarus because again, Seattle has that reputation of being like a crunchy granola kind of thing. So maybe that's more like Denver and
like Portland maybe or something.
Well, Portland's its own.
Portland, I don't know. You might be. That's a whole different story. It's a little different now, but also I think a lot of people at one point a lot of people had trucks out here too. But I think that a lot of people aren't buying gas powered trucks probably as much as they were because of gas and everything.
Yeah, but okay, that's interesting.
What about Pittsburgh? Do a lot of people have trucks out there?
Yeah, so especially where I am, I'm a little east of Pittsburgh. I'm more of in a rural area, and trucks are massive. We have a lot of open fields. We have a lot of hunters. We have our fair share of farming as well. So you definitely get trucks around here. We're also at a place where it's not as easy to just if you go to like a Lowe's or Home Depot to just throw something in the back of your SUV. Like you don't make multiple trips. You make one trip and you need something to haul as much as possible at one time. So yeah, a lot of trucks. Anywhere anymore you have a lot of SUVs. I feel like cars, what you think of when you say a car is kind of going by the wayside. I have an SUV. Both my parents have SUVs. My brother has a Outback, so it's kind of like a car, but SUV. It has a hatch.
A grocery getter is what we call
those. Yeah. So I mean, very SUV centric, but that's the trend I think across the country. So, but yeah, very a lot of Hondas, a lot of Subarus, but like when it comes to trucks, it's Ford, Chevy, GM, Dodges, stuff like that. It's when it comes to the trucks, you'll see the occasional Tacoma, whatever Honda's truck is. If it's just they need a small truck, they'll go with a foreign brand. But if it's a truck to haul, it's mostly an American. Yeah.
The F-150, the
F-150, 250s, 350s. You're getting unless you're hauling like trailers and stuff, you're getting a little intense there. But it's lots of fair amount of trucks, but definitely turning SUV centric as well. But I think that's a trend that we see everywhere. So.
Do you have a tractor?
Like tractor that you'd see on a farm,
or something you'd use for like a field. Like is that what kind of vehicles you have out where you live?
We don't own a tractor. Mostly just farmers do. Unless there's like sometimes there's retired farmers that have downsized and maybe kept a tractor and will do it for. They still have a decent sized plot of land. They'll haul a mower around or something like that.
Do you have a riding lawnmower?
We do have a riding lawnmower, yes.
Nice. Is it a John Deere?
No, my grandma has a John Deere. Ours is I don't even Briggs and Stratton maybe. I do not know on the top of my head, but yes, we have riding lawnmowers, yes.
Those are cool. I need to get one of those.
They make life a lot easier, let me put it that way.
Yeah, the other day I was painting a dude's house and he mows his lawn with one of those. It's not even electric; it's a manual. And
I know what you mean. Yeah,
and it just clips. He mowed his whole lawn with one of those.
Yeah, my grandparents years ago used to have one of those, and we thought it was the coolest thing ever. And
they are nifty.
They are. I mean, that's how they. I mean, they actually cut really well because you don't have to worry about as long as you keep them sharp. They do cut really well, but. Yeah, when you have to do more than like a small like postage stamp size patch of grass, would get old very quickly.
I mean, this is like probably a multi-million-dollar house on the lake.
Jeez.
On Lake Washington. He had a Tesla in his garage, and then he mows his lawn with one of those. Just interesting.
So environmentally conscious, we'll call him that.
Yeah, let's just call it that. Yeah.
Yeah. But all right, Snow, do you have anything else before you wrap up this episode?
Just gonna see. I was pulling up here the preseason schedule. The Penguins were back. We're announcing games again, which is cool. I know it's not the regular season, but they play Detroit on September 28th, which is a Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And that'll be cool to see. I believe it'll be... Or no, they play Buffalo next.
They play Buffalo on Tuesday night, yes.
They play Buffalo in Pittsburgh next, and then Detroit after that on Saturday. So 2 preseason games. Do you watch preseason games?
If I can find a stream, but I don't go like out of my way. I more or less just rely on highlights and stuff. Just nothing too exciting, and nothing too exciting in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. I'm curious to see what the lineup looks like. I'm sure we'll talk about it more. Do we have a pod coming out on Thursday?
Yeah, we'll do another one Thursday. We'll talk about that game, see if anything comes out, any other news that comes out. And then, a mailbag /news again. So if you have more questions, head over to Twitter and ask us so we can have something to answer. There are a few lingering in there that we can throw in, but it wouldn't hurt to have some more as well. So yeah, hit us up there, and then we'll talk to you guys Thursday. So Snell, you got anything?
Nope, I'm ready to go.
All right, everyone. Thank you guys very much. Good to be back. We will talk to you on Thursday with another episode.